Everybody, today we're here in Saudi Arabia with Kelly Goldsberry, the author of Kiss Me, the first book in the Union Rising vampire novel series.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm glad you can spend some time with us today.
I'm glad to be here.
Let's start off with a little bit about you. What can you tell us?
Well, I graduated high school in Virginia, and from there I joined the United States Air Force and spent 20 years with them before retiring. After that, I went to Boise State University in Idaho and got a bachelor's degree in drafting and a minor in anthropology.
How does your wife handle your writing career?
She's happy with it. She likes it because it keeps me home, where I can do things for her when she needs them, and it keeps me out of trouble.
Do you have a degree in writing?
No, I don't. I don't think you need a degree in writing or English just to be able to tell a story. Although I do have friends that do have degrees in writings who fix up my writing and make sure that everyone understands what I'm trying to say and corrects my spelling and my misuse of commas and so forth.
What has inspired you to write?
A while ago, I started writing. I tried my hand at it, but I didn't get very far at it. And then a couple years ago, a friend of mine saw my first scribblings, and she liked it. And so she pushed me to finish it, and then I gave it to other people to look at, and other people pushed me to finish it too. So once I got into it, I really enjoyed the writing of it.
Can you tell us about the one person that you feel has supported you outside of your family?
Well, I think there was actually two people. Well, the first one was Savannah. She was the one who got a hold of the story the first time and pushed me to finish it. And then, as I went with it, like I said, I showed it to other people, and they liked it. And then the next person that came along that pushed me even harder was Patty. And she could never wait for the next chapter to be finished. She was always chomping at the bit for it to be finished so she could read it. And then she also, because she liked the story so much, she drew pictures for me.
What has inspired you to write?
A while ago, I started writing. I tried my hand at it, but I didn't get very far at it. And then a couple years ago, a friend of mine saw my first scribblings, and she liked it. And so she pushed me to finish it, and then I gave it to other people to look at, and other people pushed me to finish it too. So once I got into it, I really enjoyed the writing of it.
Why vampires? Why do you like vampires so much?
I've always had a fascination with vampires ever since I can remember, ever since I was a little kid. And it just stuck with me as I grew up. For Halloween, I'd go as vampires. I always loved watching vampire shows of any sort, and it just stuck with me through my life.
Are there any other authors and books that have influenced you in your writing?
Yes, J.R.R. Tolkien had a big influence on me. I had to read The Hobbit in high school, and after reading The Hobbit, I went straight into Lord of the Rings, and that's what got me into the fantasy world of books and literature. And then the next one was H.P. Lovecraft, and he wrote horror stories. And I got really hooked on his writings and have read just about everything I can get my hands on.
Your own book changed the way you perceive other books and authors?
Yes, it has. It has given me a new perspective on what authors have to go through in writing a book, especially a series. Keeping track of every little thing that they say is a big responsibility they have to undertake for the reader to make sure that everything stays coherent through the series.
When did you first, without hesitation, call yourself a writer or author?
I think that was when my books finally started to sell and I obtained a small gathering on Facebook.
Did you ever have writer's block? If so, how did you work through it?
I've had it many times, but I find for myself that if I just set it aside and come back to it maybe a day or two later, that everything has resolved itself and it's in my mind. And not only that, but I have new ideas to explore that will go into where I was having my block.
Let's talk a little bit about your book, Kiss Me. It's the first book in your Union Rising vampire novel series. It introduces an Air Force Colonel, Korlin Bliss, who has recently returned home to Northern Virginia to begin his next chapter of his life, retirement. His long-dead girlfriend, Pamela, returns from the grave and claims him as her husband. It's scarcely an hour into his new vampire life, he discovers that Pamela is already married to Misty at Twilight and has 2 wives. Shortly thereafter, they meet Mary, who is a werewolf. And after a while, Mary has become wife number 3, which causes their marriage to evolve into a union. From there, things only became more complicated, with werewolves, assassins, mages, necromancers, vampire hunters, and the federal government with all their bureaucratic red tape, and last but not least, and the other entities. How do you come up with this stuff?
I'm always thinking about my books, and things just come to me and I jot them down real fast, and it's just amazing how my mind will go down all kinds of different avenues to come up with different storylines.
Are your characters in your book based on anyone from your personal life?
Not really, although I do take different personalities that I see in people and apply them to characters to give them a more realistic feeling when you read them.
How about the locations you use in your books?
I try to use locations that I actually been to because it's easier to write about and keep it as factual as possible without too much guesswork.
And in your book you refer to the word Twilight. What is a Twilight?
A Twilight is a person who is not completely human and not completely vampire. They're basically type of a pseudo-vampire. They're just not quite there yet, although they do have some of the powers, but at a lesser degree than a full vampire.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your next book, The Shenandoah Horror?
It takes place, for the most part, in Iowa, in a small farm town, where vampires are taking the blame for a series of murders that are going on. Although the MO of the murders don't fit a vampire. So the Bliss Union is called in to investigate. Well, when they get there, they have family there, so they inherit family problems along with their own case. So their case that they're working on is entwined with family problems.
Well, we know a little bit about you now, and we have time for one last question. Okay, what is going to be next?
Well, I'm continuing on with the storyline. The next book, Resurrection, begins with a series of murders within the government that turn out to be vampires. So the Bliss Union is once more asked to investigate these murders, which embroils them in a plot to start a war between vampires and humans. And on top of that, but the French cartel in France is also trying to muscle in on the Union to exert their force over on this side of the Atlantic.